All I feel like I can do is laugh. Truthfully, all I feel like I can do is laugh at this point. I can't sit here and scream because it's the same thing every single day. I can't sit here and be this internal optimist and say, oh, we're going to get things better, folks. We're going to start a winning streak starting tomorrow. All I can sit here is tell you folks that the Mets now sit 11 games below 500, have won one series in the entire month of May. They recorded just a handful of victories at Citi Field, all of which came in a dramatic walk-off fashion when the Mets were dominating for most of the previous game. And in a day where they eliminate a 3-run deficit there by the LA Dodgers, Adam Ottavino and that Hayden slider that he knows oh so well, along with a Jorge Lopez that of course is throwing meatballs and getting pissed off by the third base ump to be thrown out of the game, to even have his glove thrown into the stands the way he famously did, as you guys will see here shortly. We have a New York Metropolitan team that is now 11-25 since Francisco Alvarez went down with injury, folks. Yes, you heard that correctly. When games of Francisco Alvarez is in the lineup and impacting the team, the Mets are 11-8. Without Francisco Alvarez, they are 11-25. He begins his rehab assignment tomorrow, but all I know is it's looking too little too late for anything Metsian that is good to happen this season. Mets fans, this is not only a post-game show, this is going to be a vent session. We're going to get into innings 1 through 9, as always, what transpired, and the latest godforsaken shit show you call a ball club in an outing by the Mets today. Oh yeah, Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso, they're both hurt. They're out with injury right now. Alonso, we're waiting word on how bad his hit by pitch was from James Paxton earlier today, and Edwin Diaz is on the 15-day IL with a shoulder impingement. Not that it means all that much, considering Diaz was nothing but net negative for the Mets throughout pretty much the entire month of May, it feels like. But the bigger story here is the Mets' continued struggles finding new ways to lose, and now we have ourselves our latest call-in show, folks. I'm going to do my best to not be too long-winded, and this one, everybody, I want to hear from you Mets fans out there. If you guys got some things you want to let off your chest, if you got some questions to ask, if you guys just want to rant or vent for, say, a minute or so and let me hear it, what your thoughts are about the team, of course, bearing in mind that we're a live show here, we're going to try to be, somewhat, I'm not going to say PG because we throw profanity out there, of course, earmuffs, kiddos, #1 Mets postgame show here on YouTube, #1 channel on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY, thanks to you amazing Mets fans. And while the Mets have continued to not show up for over a month straight, your boy Wardy is always here, always talking ball, and always talking about, unfortunately, how the Mets are continuing to take years off my life. So in today's live show, we're going to get into everything you need to know from today's outing, along with getting to your live calls. I'm going to try to get to as many calls as possible, folks. When you guys call in, I'll show you guys how to do that a little bit later. Once you call in, please just make sure you're being respectful. One, make sure you guys are staying relevant, talking about the Mets too, and make sure you put your own name in and make sure that I can see who you guys are when I bring you into the software, okay? It'll just be a live call-in session. That's going to take up a good portion of today's live show. I promise you guys all week long, every post-game show we do will either have a special guest or I'll be taking live callers because I'm fed up just talking to myself here. This camera, I know we have hundreds if not thousands of people watch every single night. Doesn't change the fact that even I get stale when I'm talking about the same nonsense and the same unfortunate godforsaken team every single night. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you diehard Mets fans and what you guys have to say. Is it time to blow this thing up? Will the Mets blow it up? What are the changes and or moves going to be going forward? Hopefully we find out sooner rather than later because the Mets have now dropped a ridiculous amount of games, a putrid month of May. What, you thought the June swoon was going to be a thing? No, folks. Let me introduce to you the most miserable, I can't even speak right now, miserable May humanly imaginable. That is exactly what we saw here, folks. Let's get into it all. Let's break it down. But most importantly, spam those L's. The same way that I say spam those W's when things are going right, spam those L's. This Mets team has been so pathetic, has been so unwatchable that, again, unless you are sickos like myself and you guys watching the live chat and people on replay right now, I don't blame anyone whatsoever tuning out this ball club because there is no valid reason to want to tune in. On an everyday night-to-night basis, your boy is losing hair faster than I could possibly even imagine because of how much and how frustrating this Mets team continues to be. They again faced an LA Dodgers team that had dropped around 5 straight entering this series. The Dodgers played far, and I mean far from dominant baseball in this entire series. The same way that we saw in the Atlanta Braves played far from dominant baseball that we saw in the matchups that we've had against them so far this season. how many good teams the Mets have played this year where they haven't even played to their utmost caliber, and yet they have done easy work against the Mets here in either close ball games or a shit show like today, where again you have a tied ball game, all for Adam Ottavino to come in and change the narrative. A lot to get into, folks, a lot of frustration, and I want to hear from you guys. Most importantly, that will be the biggest takeaway in this one, folks. Welcome to the official WardyNYM post-game show. Shout out to my amazing sponsors, as always, at Sora MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there. Check them out today by clicking the unique link down below here in the live show on YouTube. Same applies with our great friends at BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook. Guys, I'm loving those Dallas Mavericks there as the underdog tomorrow. We'll talk a bit more about that later in the show. Make sure to sign up today to both these respective sponsors for either your sports betting needs or your fantasy baseball needs, and thank you so much in advance. We'll get to them a bit later, folks. Wait, Wardy, when is Wardy Jr. arriving on the scene? Sorry about the Caps. No worries, Bobby. We are just weeks away. It's a ticking time bomb right now. So if there's anything that is going to be enjoyable coming in my life soon, that is in the Mets. It is going to be, yes, Wardy Jr., and I cannot wait to share them with you once they are here. Very excited for that. So we will talk about that when the time is right. If you're wondering why isn't Wardy covering the Mets for, say, 24, 48 hours for the first time in forever, it's probably because the kiddo is here. But again, we're not there yet. Once we will, I will, of course, inform you guys. Right now, we're going to talk about the Mets and talk about why my face is getting redder than a fucking tomato here at 7:43 p.m. Eastern, May 29th, 2024. I just want to make sure I'm also live and everything is properly set up here on Twitter. If you guys are watching on Twitter, thank you all so much for that. Hit that like button, that follow button, that retweet button, but know that I will only be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube per usual, and thank you all so much in advance for understanding. Let's see here. Let's see. Vent call in session right here for you Mets fans. All right, guys, again, this is one of these things I try to avoid, especially when things are so doom and gloom. I know you guys are going to say some stuff that, again, you're going to go completely off the rails, but staying on the topic of the Mets, I hope. And I understand the frustration, and I not only understand the frustration, I want to hear it. I just want to hear, again, to make sure that I'm validated, that I'm not the only sicko that's thinking the way that I am right now about this Mets team and feeling the way that I am about this Mets team. And for the people that say, oh, why not just tune them out? It's so hard to when you're attached to them with the way that us diehard fans are, one, and two, I cover them for a living. So there is no dodging this thing. No matter how much I love them or hate them or do or don't want to talk about them, I got to do it every single time for obvious reasons. And we are going to get into that all here shortly. Let me just make sure that this is all set up properly there with the BetUS promo. You love to see that, everybody. I'm sweating bullets already. We're going to get into the numbers. I'm going to tell you how David Pearson and his first start back this season was very sharp and, again, a little promising. Some positives there out of what was a big net negative outing. Tomas Nido on the offensive end looking like a sure guarantee to be Francisco Alvarez's backup catcher and not Omar Narvaez. I'm sure as shit better not be Narvaez once Alvarez returns from injury. Then, of course, we will get into our amazing sponsors, as I just mentioned, with our great friends at Sora MLB and BetUS, everybody. And actually, briefly, folks, let's just hop for a quick second. Let's talk about our great friends here, one of our sponsors. You know, let's get this out of the way because I love talking about my sponsors as always, but especially when I love slates coming up, folks, the way that I do with BetUS, folks. Again, BetUS has you covered for all your sports betting needs. Make sure to check them out today by clicking the link down below. If you do so, and if it's your first time signing up, you get a 125% bonus with your first not one, not two, but 3 deposits for all your sports betting needs. We can talk about the MLB slates all we want, folks, but there is a game in particular that's sticking out like a sore thumb to me right now, and that is in fact going to be the Dallas Mavericks and the Timberwolves for Game 5. Of course, last night we saw the T-Wolves and Anthony Edwards just edge out Luka and Kyrie there, but as we get a Game 5, the Dallas Mavericks currently sit as a massive underdog at plus 136 and plus 4.5 on the spread. Last night they were plus 155, so the odds are even more favorable if you guys are going to hammer the underdog here. And in my opinion, Luka Doncic is not only the best player still available in playoffs, he's certainly better than Jason Tatum. Yes, you heard me say that. I'll say that 1,000 times every single day of the weekend on Sundays. He's better than Anthony Edwards. He is better than anyone else currently out there. And on top of that, Luka is deemed by many as the best player in all of NBA when he is right. And we know that. He has been an absolute force since coming over from Real Madrid in the draft all those years ago, being swapped with Mr. Trae Young out of the draft with Atlanta. Between Luka and Kyrie, and just seeing how the Timberwolves just edged out that win yesterday, I think you would be foolish not at minimum to at least hammer the spread here for Dallas. Yesterday I hammered the money line, so we're going to do the spread just to show you guys the difference here. Again, please make sure you bet responsibly. Again, tail the pick if you want. If you don't, that's fine too. Just make sure whatever you guys do with BetUS, make sure you're betting responsibly. But we have them here at -105 at +4.5. That simply means the Dallas Mavericks need to either win outright or make sure that they don't lose by 4.5 points. You know, and that's the key thing here. So I'm going to hammer them at 105 to win 100. So wish me luck, folks. Again, if you are a fan of the T-Wolves and you just got offended, I'm sorry. But my counter is, if you're a T-Wolves fan, why are you watching a Mets postgame stream, if I'm being quite frank? Either way, appreciate the support. Shout out to our great friends at BetUS. As always, we'll be coming at you with our latest lines and all those kind of things regarding MLB slates in the near future. Did not do a pregame show today because it's been so doom and gloom. There's nothing to look forward to right now in Mets land. So until then, we're kind of hung up on what to discuss and really do things outside of venting. So again, thank you guys for the support. There are also apologies in advance as I go back to my main slide here in a second, everybody. I'm going to rant, quickly go through the game inning by inning 1 through 9. We'll get into some of the stats. Then I'm going to take the live callers. I'm not going to be long-winded today on my end because I want to hear from you guys and take as many callers as I can in, you know, an hour, tops hour and a half time of a live show today. But my intro is going to run for a hot second or two, so apologies in advance right now. This video is brought to you that's not a problem there. I want to make sure that these bad boys are turned off, both of them. Okay, everybody. So, how we feeling, Mets fans? On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you stand when it comes to still believing in the Mets so far this season? Because I will tell you right now, I know it's a 162. I know the same way that you can lose 5+ games is the same way that you can win 5+ games. But as David Stern said it himself yesterday in a pregame presser, the Mets have done absolutely nothing to justify being labeled as a playoff team. They have done nothing, and I mean nothing, to, in fact, put themselves in a position right now to warrant being labeled a playoff caliber team. And while the Mets still have aspirations to push for playoffs, that only means so much when you have to show it. The Mets in their past 10 games, 2-8. What did I tell you all, folks? The Mets could easily go 2-8 on this homestand, and they have, of course, the D-backs for the final series, when the Diamondbacks have been playing much better baseball as of late from everything I've seen. So that 2-8 record can only get worse here as we enter the month of June. Do I want this to happen? No, of course I don't. But I don't think I'm being a pessimist when I'm just being a realist and saying the Mets have done absolutely nothing to justify me going out of my way to tell you that they are in fact a team that we should have faith in winning. When the Mets tied the ball game and it was 3-3 today, my initial thought was, how are they going to blow it today? How are they going to manage to not add insurance runs? Because after they tied the ball game there in that inning, they still had multiple on with less than 2 out and couldn't convert there. I knew from that point on, that's all we got from the Mets offense today, and it was just a ticking time bomb with this bullpen waiting to happen. It is disgusting. You are what your record says you are, 100%. Prediction of when the fire sale begins. Here's the thing. Even if the Mets go complete fire sale by the trade deadline, it won't be overwhelming when it comes to being premature, because trade value, these things need to continue to be built up. And that's why a lot of teams, even if they don't look like they're at all going to be in a playoff position, a lot of them do wait until closer to the deadline to fire sale, because that's when the market is in their favor. The same way Steve Cohen posted and then deleted a tweet saying that our hands are basically tied until the deadline. It's true. No matter how much we love it or hate it, the reality is the Mets cannot really do much until we get closer to the deadline. June starts tomorrow, folks. The deadline isn't until the first week of August. So we still have pretty much, I would say at minimum, another month plus of probably very frustrating, very mediocre, very Jekyll and Hyde baseball before we see changes of drastic significance. Could I be wrong? Could David Stearns make some drastic moves with the coaching staff? Let's start with Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is possible, but when it comes to the actual players on the roster outside of Francisco Alvarez returning in the next week or two off of his rehab assignment that begins tomorrow, and outside of Drew Smith coming into the bullpen, you know, hopefully in the coming days, as he, of course, had a setback right as he was about to return the Mets over a week ago. He's now getting rehab stints once again. You see this Mets team, you see how they're built, and you know how the market is. So, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to go through a bit more of hell before we're going to get what we want. If for those that say want a full-blown fire sale, for those that still have a sliver of optimism, I'm here to tell you that the Mets need to act fast, and they need to win fast. If they do not win fast, it doesn't matter how many games you have in a season. When you dig yourself in such a deep hole, it takes a miracle run, and it takes runs from teams that are built to go on said runs. The Mets are by no means built. Even when playing at their absolute best, the Mets are not built as a team that can go on a crazy run right now. They've done nothing to show it. The 12-3 run was awesome. They basically need to have a 12-3 run again in order for them to just be a 500 ball club. Do you not understand how difficult that is? So unbelievably difficult. And that is why we are sitting here today, 11 games below 500 after a piss poor May. And I'm going to break down again everything that you guys unfortunately need to know from this one, even though I know you probably don't want to know. And then from there, we will take your live callers as always. Ninja Bob says, Britt here, new fans start following MLB this season. Decide Mets are my team because they are masters of snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, just like my EPL football team. Telling him, Hotspurs, you love that. My man Anthony Recker, former Met turned MLB Network analyst, is a huge Hotspurs fan. So you're not alone there. And he gets just as hot-headed and just as frustrated as you do, I'm sure. Happy to have you in here, my friend. I'm so sorry to see that you picked, out of all teams of baseball, to start watching probably one of, if not the worst imaginable, outside of a team like the Chicago White Sox, who I'm sure have still had more wins this past month than even the Mets have since losing Francisco Alvarez to injury. Bet US odds is 2-1 for Eric Chavez can before Jeremy Barnes. I like those. I like those, Yuki. I literally got to hit up my guys at Bet US and say, let's get the odds going on the firings for the Mets here, because that is the next thing that feels like it's going to happen, right? Let's see. John Rossi, great member. They don't have one of the worst records in baseball. They don't have a run. There you go. Alan, thank you so much for being here. Also, apologies, everybody. You boys got a sinus infection. Sweating bullets, ranting my ass off. Still doing it for you all because I know this is far more important. And I got to show up in days where the Mets don't, and you guys got to let off some steam. My man Dave, great member in here, says 0. Again, he's not feeling good at all about the Mets right now. Guardian of Chaos, great mod. Happy to have you in here. Hope all is well. Guardian, I think I came across something on Twitter earlier today, too. I could be wrong on your timeline. I think it had something to do with you being in the hospital. Not you, but you physically attending there for someone. So I don't know what's happening on that front, but I'm wishing you all best wishes and sending prayers to you and your family during this time, my man, with whatever is going on. I don't know the context. I was just scrolling briefly, saw it. I saw your beautiful goatee that you simply cannot miss, and I want to address that as soon as I would see you in streams next. So I hope you're doing okay, my man. When the Mets go to London, says Dave, great member, could we make it a one-way ticket? I mean, it wouldn't hurt. Honestly, we shouldn't be allowed to go to London. And there's one thing I can confidently say, for a while, prior to finding out that I'm going to be a father this summer, of course, it's going back months and months ago, my initial plans last season when I saw the Mets-Phillies news that they're going to London was 100% going to be there. I had everything set up that I was going to be there. Then I find out the baby news is going to be around the time that the London thing is happening. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go. And that couldn't be a better time now, because I have zero, nada, none interest to go out of my way. What, you want me to go across seas over the pond to watch this godforsaken team? I know they're going to juice the baseballs in that London series. I know we're going to probably see high offense. And I know that offense will probably not be indicative on how the Mets actually play day by day, because they're going to try to make a spectacle of it, knowing they're playing in London the same way, especially with the altitude when they play in Mexico in those series, the Padres, the Rockies, the Giants, it's inflated galore. Any type of big key international series, they change the baseballs a bit. I expect high offense there. Even then, have zero interest, zero desire to want to be there, outside of maybe seeing some awesome UK fans like my man Dave, great member in the chat as always. Shout out to all my other members for chiming in live on a replay. Happy to have you all in here. Greatly appreciate you guys. My man Steven, great member, says, I'm sick of this team, my man. Trust me, you are far from the only one, my friend. Far from the only one. It is absolutely disgusting that we have now, again, not even entered the month of June, and we sit 11 games below 500. You know how impressive that is to be that bad? unbelievably impressive. Again, if there's one thing the Mets can continue to surprise us with, it is their ability to find new ways to lose. Lamar Lackey with the $5 donation says, I think the Mets should go after Kyle Tucker when he's a free agent after next year, and the Mets should go after Mike Trout. The Mets, no reason for Mike Trout. We don't need that contract for a guy that's never going to be healthy in a full season again. Love Mike. I'm not interested there personally. Really not, and I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I felt that way for a little bit now, even as great as he is when healthy. Kyle Tucker, sign me the hell up. Kyle Tucker's one of my favorite players in baseball out of the American League. One of the most underrated outfielders in Major League Baseball, too. I just want to make sure if the Mets would get him, that it wouldn't be a George Springer situation where you kind of got him a little too late after his run in Houston, and then he has, say, 1 or 2 strong years, and then he really falls off from there. As we know, Blue Jays fans can attest to this right now. Mr. George Springer is god-awful. So, let's break down the ballgame now, folks. What's the likelihood they fire Mendoza? I would say a solid 0% for obvious reasons. For anyone that wants Mendoza's head, here's the thing, Mets fans. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to be the move you think it would be because it doesn't make any sense. Mendoza is not the reason why you're having key guys on the roster underperform where they've underperformed multiple times in the past under previous regimes. Let's not forget these guys drastically underperforming with Buck Showalter in the past. Let's not forget these guys drastically underperforming with this core group to an extent when we had even guys like Louis Rojas here, or whether it was going to be after Rojas it was then Buck, right? So again, you can pinpoint certain things on the manager, but Mendoza, regardless on how good or bad the Mets will be this season, he's always going to be here. Whether you love it or hate it, that is not going to change, in my opinion. And understandably so. He's going to get some type of leash for the time being, and that does make plenty of sense. Also, apologies again for the cough, sir, folks. All right, let's break down this shit show you call a ball game. Let's get into it. Thank you for the donations. I appreciate that. Excited to see Stearns turn over this roster soon. That's another thing, too. There are some things to look forward to should the Mets continue to free fall like this. It is knowing that, yes, we are going to see David Stearns have his mitts on things that he hasn't had before, right? Let's look at the David Stearns moves he's done. Okay, Jorge Lopez got his titslet today. Adam Ottavino returned got his titslet. Of course, if you want to pinpoint there on the bullpen when they have their bad outings, sure, but make sure you give credit for the times that Adam Ottavino has been brilliant earlier this season. Not so much past couple outings, he's been absolutely horrendous. And Jorge Lopez, the same applies. These guys, relievers, we know can be Jekyll and Hyde, but we have had a lot of success on the pitching front as a whole. Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, David Pearson, of course, is not a guy that David Stearns brought in, but David Pearson was nice to see him have a solid outing today against the Dodgers, all things considered. So, again, we can nitpick a lot, but at the core, the big problems here stem from players and coaching staff that has been here before David Stearns and Carlos Mendoza even arrived. That's the big problem. Sleepy Dave won't do shit. Oh, trust me, he will. He will. And he will not make moves to suggest that, okay, we're going to win the World Series this year. Don't see that happening at this current rate. But he will make moves, and he will part ways with a lot of these short-term contracts. And, again, some dead weight. Jeff McNeil is a ticking time bomb as a matter as to not if he will be dealt or bought out or anything along those lines, but rather when it'll happen. McNeil will not be a New York Met in 2025. I can almost promise you that with the way things are going. For a contact hitter, he lifts the ball way too much. He doesn't have the power to warrant the lifting. He's behind in the count more often than not, and he just looks completely uncomfortable out there, even when he hits his home runs. Again, we don't need you to hit home runs. We need you to be slapping the ball the way you do best and having consistently 2 to 3 hits a night. Yet, again, we have a Jeff McNeil that sits closer to the Mendoza line than he does 300. Major problem. According to Puma, they're having a meeting. All right, folks. So according to Mr. Michael Puma, let's check this out here on Twitter real quick. The Mets are having a meeting. I don't know if that's true. I didn't see any tweet about that, John, unless you saw something from SNY. What I can tell you, too, is that Alonso, thankfully, the imaging came back good, so it doesn't look like there's going to be an overwhelming sense of concern there with his hand, barring any changes. Again, that may change soon. Diekman is the Ohtani specialist. Yes, that is true. I appreciate you guys going back and forth in the chat, too. Ricky says, should the Mets break up the core, Lindor, McNeil, and Pete? Considering I don't even view McNeil as part of this core, yes, absolutely. And furthermore, I love Alonso, but with each passing day that Alonso cannot click with this current team, especially when the Mets need him to step up and things of that nature, everyone has a price. And you know what I care about more than anything? And this is something that I'm learning more and more as a young baseball fan, a Mets fan. I care about my team winning. I care about my team winning more than anything. So whoever's on the team only means so much to me. I just want them to go out and win. And if that means that the Mets do part ways with Pete Alonso by the deadline, if that does mean that they let him walk in the offseason, so be it. I have faith in David Stearns that they're going to make the proper moves. But I will preface that if you do allow Alonso to walk or you do deal him, it better be for the best possible deal imaginable, and it better be for the best reason imaginable if you let him walk, say because you throw $600 million at Juan Soto, or say because you're really allocating your money, your trade assets, and you're really making the team a lot better for 2025 and beyond. Those are the only ways to justify it, because I still love Pete Alonso, and I still have a connection to him as a homegrown power talent. But with each passing day, we're getting more fed up with this core group for every justified reason. Don't blame any of you. Okay, everybody. Following one of their worst losses in recent memory, punctuated by Jorge Lopez losing his cool and throwing his glove in the stands, the Mets are delaying media entry into their clubhouse to hold a team meeting. They're addressing things as we speak. Mind you, the Mets do not, and I repeat, not have an off day tomorrow, folks. So the Mets have to go right back out there and try to get their head on straight. So I don't know if it's just Mendoza in that meeting. I don't know if David Stearns is in that meeting. We may find out throughout the course of the live show as we do this right now. All I know is that right now there's a team meeting going on that feels, a tad long overdue. I don't know why at 11 games under, we're just like, okay, let's meet. Why didn't this happen yesterday after being swept? Why? Why hasn't this happened sooner? Head scratching decisions. I will say that much, but apologies, folks. Let's break it down any by any now. Thank you for the donations, everybody. Ricky, thank you so much for the $10 holla. I really appreciate that, Ricky. Really does mean a lot, my man. I answered that question for you already. I see Mets with a $5 holla says, get rid of the collective cancer that is Hefner and Barnes when the season is over. I wouldn't say Hef is a complete cancer. He's definitely still productive, but I do argue that Hefner does wait a little too long to go out and help the pitchers when they're erratic. I think we could agree there. I agree on Barnes, and I especially agree on Chavez. That's the only way this team does good in 2025, says Mets 21-28. Sam Garcia says, excited to see Stearns turnover. We discussed that. And I discussed everything else to this point, everybody. All right, folks, meaning for what say collectively we suck. That's fine, DJG. That is. All right, guys, starting off in the first inning. David Pearson, again, came to play today with a 1-2-3 inning, also thanks to a Tyrone Taylor beautiful catch in left field. Taylor played great defense the past 24 hours, if only he had a little bit more of the bat to show with it. Maybe not taking a 3-run heater right down the dick yesterday, just some food for thought with bases low, 1 out, the demise of the Mets there. Can I play footage of Lopez? I am playing footage of Lopez, folks, that you guys can see the highlights I got for you. I was chopping up the highlights, doing all that stuff, mid-game for you all. Make sure I had it present. You will see Lopez on the screen here shortly if you haven't already. So, in the bottom of the first, we see Alonso then exits with a hit-by-pitch injury, gets hit right on the hand by a James Paxton here in the zone. I think Alonso will be okay, thankfully, but now both him and Edwin Diaz are injured. Alonso's trying to avoid the injured list, his second straight year where he's hit on the hand. Around a similar time in the year 2, mind you, he got drilled by Charlie Morton last year. Then that was his demise from there, in part, even though he wasn't hitting well, entering that hit-by-pitch there in Atlanta from Charlie Morton. And now today, unfortunately, he gets hit by James Paxton. So that happens in the bottom of the first. In the top of the second, then, we see Will Smith. I'm sorry, I'm going to go out and say it. Earmuffs, kiddos. Fuck the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, because Will Smith, this time, the Mr. White Boy Baseball Will Smith, bitch slapped, not Chris Rock, but a couple baseballs in this series. Not 1, not 2, but 3. Will Smith hit 3 ding-dongs in 24 hours against the Mets, and he would go on to kill them, along with, again, validating why he's now on a 10-year extension. Francisco Alvarez should be the next catcher to get such a thing. I will stand by that. We see Smith with the home run, Kike Hernandez with the single, Rojas, a former Mets killer, still a Mets killer, going from Miami to LA. Just don't tell Jazz Chisholm that, Rojas is playing well or he's going to get his panties in a twist. Rojas with a double, Vargas with a strikeout would then end the inning. As we then get to the top of the third, David Pearson with a 1-2-3, really nice sitting, brilliant shutting down Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman in order. David Pearson looks strong with that heater today, and we'll get into a bit on his pitch mix a little bit later on after I break down things inning by inning. In the bottom of the third with 2 outs, Lindor with a single, Beatty with a single, JD Martinez pops out then to end the inning. Mets have 2 on with 2 out, cannot convert there. In the fourth, Will Smith with a double, Pages with an RBI single. He'll be caught stealing second base. A nice throw to second by Mr. Tomas Nido, who had himself a damn good day. On a day where Tomas Nido is a huge part of your offense, is of course a day you still lose. LTC Cherno, thank you for the $5 holla, says the same people calling Mendy's head want Bucks back, even though they all called for a Bucks head this time last year. 1,000%. And furthermore, Buck Showalter is far from a manager that you want for a Mets team that's going to have a lot more turmoil and wants to play some young talent. Buck Showalter is a win-now manager. It doesn't make any sense for either side for that relationship to have continued between the turmoil we heard last year, along with what the Mets' vision is now under David Stearns and Steve Cohen going forward. It just doesn't make any sense. I promise you. Buck Showalter had a core group of veterans last year, and look what happened. You know, a ridiculous clubhouse where Tommy Pham, your rental signing, is your standout offensively, talking shit on how much your position players aren't training and performing to their caliber consistently. Yes, that does fall on the manager to a degree, because they're supposed to be in there trying to get these players right. Yes, they're professionals. Yes, they're all adults. But especially an established manager like Buck Showalter, you think would get more respected the way that he wasn't last season with the Mets. That is something to make a note of, and that is why I'm far from under the notion that, okay, Buck Showalter would make this team so much better right now. Far from it. That's a whole lot of bullshit. I don't want to hear it. The Mets had an unsustainable theory of philosophy in 2022 with the small ball hitting and the boop and the blast. If you weren't Lindor and Alonzo Hayne bombs, the Mets struggled. If they didn't get the small ball going, it was not sustainable, and we saw how it fell flat on its face. Let's forget about the past and let's focus on the now and what is going forward, because that's the only thing we have to look forward to, unfortunately, for us Mets fans. So, getting back into this, folks, as we get to the bottom of the fourth there, Yohan Ramirez comes in to pitch against the Mets. The Mets, of course, traded Yohan Ramirez a week or so ago for cash considerations to the Dodgers. Marte rips a single off of him, and nothing else happens. In the top of the fifth, then, Vargas with a walk and a stolen base, an error by David Pearson there, and Ohtani with an RBI single makes it a 2-0 ball game. In the bottom of the fifth, we see a lot, or 2 or 3-0. Either way, Eliza Hernandez, who barely pitched for the Mets last year, was from the Miami Marlins. Remember that guy? Remember that schmuck? Well, Hernandez comes in to pitch in the bullpen against the Mets here in the fifth. Bader with a single. Nito with a 2-run dick shot to left. Nito Kane is doing masterful things there in relief basically for Francisco Alvarez being out with injury. Lindor with a walk, and then Grove comes in, the reliever. Eliza Hernandez, thank you for still acting like a Met there and giving us a chance. Beatty with a nice at-bat and a ground out moves Lindor to second base. JD Martinez, the former Dodger turned Met, might be a Dodger somewhere again by the deadline, because I don't see him staying in Queens beyond the first week of August with the way this Mets team is not performing right now. JDM rips an RBI double to tie the ball game 3-3, and then after that we see Marte with a walk. Mets cannot do anything more there, however. In the top of the sixth, Sean Reed Foley comes in, and we see Teoscar Hernandez with a single, and it would have been thrown out at third base. He would then be thrown out at third base to end the inning. Poor base running by the Dodgers. Again, they had what we call the bad fundies, as Keith Hernandez famously says, and the Mets get out of that jam unscathed. In the bottom of six, former 2021 Mets reliever and best friend with Aaron Loop when they were drinking their Busch beers post-game, Mr. Anthony Banda returns to Queens here to face the Mets, and Banda gives up a leadoff single to Jeff McNeil. McNeil gets to second base on a Bader flyout. Nito with a walk, and the Mets cannot convert there with 2 on, less than 2 out. At the top of the seventh, we see Mookie Betts with a walk. Jake Diekman then comes in. SRF's day is done after pitching over 1 scoreless innings, and then it's the lefty-lefty matchup. Jake Diekman might be erratic, but he knows how to strike out Shohei Ohtani. That is his nemesis in Ohtani, and we see Diekman with a fastball up and in, gets Ohtani swinging, and then a key ground out on Freddie Freeman lefty-lefty ends the inning. As we see there in the bottom of the 7 with 2 outs, Marte with an opposite field single. Marte got on base at least 3 times today. Nice to see there from Starling. Baseball team you call the New York Metropolitans. As we hop back into this one, folks, we're almost there. We're almost towards breaking down this game so I can get to you live callers, because that is the important thing here. They're still having the team meeting. That is good. I'm glad. They should talk that shit up forever. I hope they're ranting. I hope they're letting stuff out, and I hope that they make change, because this Mets team is nothing short of pathetic, and you have no idea how much I hate coming out here every single day to each and every one of you, thousands of people every single night, telling you the same nonsense for a Mets team that I had and I still have so much passion and covering and wanting to love and appreciate, yet this team has done nothing to make me want to love or appreciate them. That is the unfortunate reality. And Adam Ottavino, again, we talk about hating sliders. Holy shit, he has been on a run with this one. Adam Ottavino hangs one right down the dick to Will Smith. Will Smith, again, the hottest batter you could rightfully argue for the Dodgers in the series right now, of course, makes Ottavino and the Mets pay. He rips a home run, his second of the day. Jason Hayward legs a triple. Yes, if Jason Hayward hits a triple, then a home run, 2024 Jason Hayward, do not expect to win the game. It's as simple as that. We have hit new lows, okay? When Chris Taylor gets an RBI single in this series, when Kike Hernandez, these guys have been laboring all season long are being effective, you know there's a problem. And you know the Mets have things really bad right now. And he gets to third base because Marte throws himself into the fence in a valiant effort to try to catch it. A little shaken up, stays in the game, though. Hayward gets to third base. Then we see there Smith with a walk and a stolen base. Rojas with an RBI single. And then Mr. Jorge Lopez comes in the ballgame. What does Jorge do? He gives up a 2-run single to Rojas. If I'm not mistaken, I might have the players confused here. Just know the Dodgers scored a shit ton in the 8th inning, and that's what blew this one up. Ohtani with an opposite field 2-run home run, mere seconds after Gary, of course, had to say on the broadcast, well, the Dodgers, they are getting the wins here without much from Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani is 1 for 9 so far in this series, and that's a drive to left field, opposite field bomb. Shohei Ohtani makes it a 9-3 ball game. So thanks for nothing on the jinx scare. Not that it matters, but just pissed me off a little bit to add fuel to the fire, if you will. Then we see Jason Hayward with a home run in the 9th. That's the ball game, folks. The Mets are shit. They're driving me up a wall. I don't know how, and I truly do not know how people have went out of their way to be at these games. I went to one, and that was the worst mistake I made so far this season, truthfully. Imagine going out of your way, driving 4+ hours of traffic to a Mets game when you're out of the area to be there for a sliver of time just to see, yes, your first hit and your final out of the game against the Atlanta Braves. Unbelievable. Actually ridiculous. Brandon Nimmo and others are now talking post-game, folks, so if you guys want to check that out whenever, they're showing that on SNY. I don't think we're really going to get any quotes that's going to make us feel any better, because even if they're blunt and saying, yes, we suck and we need to make change, things need to be better, okay, broken record, we all know that. Thank you. On to the next. Let's talk about now, folks, why we need to hear from you. Okay, Wardy, we should start calling out prospects. I agree to a degree. And I think we're going to be talking about quite a bit more on the prospect front here on the channel and fast. The way that this Mets team is running themselves into the ground and are putting themselves down in a position where there isn't even anything to warrant. And I mean warrant anything to want to talk about them consistently. There are far more exciting and interesting things going on in the Mets minor leagues right now than there is with the actual ball club at the moment. So, yes, it's heartbreaking. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, that is a reality. All right, folks, we are going to get on to your live callers here in a second, but before I start to take your live callers, I do, of course, want to share with you all our amazing sponsor on the channel. If you guys don't know already, you're about to know now with our great friends at Sora MLB. For those that don't know, everybody, Sora MLB is the best MLB fantasy game out there. It is free to play, but you, of course, can buy, sell, and trade and upgrade your cards. And simply put, folks, if you guys like MLB The Show, if you guys like also playing fantasy with your friends or people online, combine that together, and this is Sora MLB. Be your own GM. Be your own manager of your squad. You build a team of virtual cards that you can, again, collect and buy, sell, and trade for real dollars on the marketplace during the Sora MLB app or on your desktop, wherever you want to play. You enter weekly tournaments with the players that you build your rosters with, and how you perform is based on how these players perform in real life. So if you had Gunnar Henderson, like I had today, who had a grand slam, he already 18 bombs on the season, that is my AL MVP pick, baby. You love that from Gunnar, and I picked that in my preseason picks with our BetUS spring training trip. So I'm not trying to brag, but I'm bragging a little bit. Gunnar Henderson, absolute dog. Love him and love those O's. That's a wagon. The same way that Adley Rutschman is. The same way that a lot of these guys are that are currently on my roster, folks. And I'm going to build a roster for you right now to enter these weekly tournaments, because if you do well in these tournaments and these guys perform well in real life, you win cash prizes, hundreds if not thousands of dollars. You win Mets ticket prizes. We gave a boatload of Mets tickets away on the channel this past month to people that just signed up with our unique link and entered a free tournament. Yes, I know no one wants to go to Mets games right now, so you can defer and ask for tickets for other teams, because again, if you're a baseball fan, why not go out your way to go to see the Baltimore Orioles, right? Why not go out your way to go see different teams? Because truthfully, that's probably the only time you're going to get entertainment with the way that our favorite team is unfortunately not playing right now. And as you guys can get, and guys and gals can see right now, we are going to enter a tournament to show you guys a little bit on how this works. We're going to enter a limited monthly chase where you need rare cards in order to do so. And by entering the monthly chase tournament, this is what we're going to have for our options. I got a bunch of different pitching options, but I only have one starting pitcher right now that is healthy and able to pitch, and that is going to be Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn will be my starter. Yes, I know that's ugly. We'll leave it at that. Then for my reliever, I'm going to go with Tanner Scott of the Miami Marlins. For the hot corner, I'm going with Alex Bregman. I got Adley Rutschman there as our middle infielder, of course catcher, but we're going to put him there. Brian Reynolds, we're going to put him there. Then we're also going to throw in Adolis Garcia. I know the Rangers have been fickle this season, but we're going to go with him. Then for my final pick, we are going to go with someone on the offensive end that could potentially have himself a solid series. You know, it's crazy how Jonah Heim is predicted to have such little production because he hasn't been playing baseball well lately, but we're going to go with Jonah Heim. My other team is much better than this one. I have Luis Severino in there, Edwin Diaz prior to the IL stint, Brandon Nimmo, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and plenty more. But if you guys, again, love to play fantasy baseball and want to be incentivized to really build team collections, one, and have a lot of fun by seeing how these players perform in real life and win cash prizes and different giveaways, Sora MLB is the fantasy game for you. Make sure to check them out today, and thank you all so much in advance. All right, folks, let's take your callers. Enough of this nonsense. They better be playing Wardy rants behind the closed doors. I hope so. And here's the thing. I know for absolute certain there are plenty of players in that clubhouse that have listened to me that know who I am. So if there are any out there right now that are somehow listening or watching at any point, I'm here to tell you guys, we love you. Know that we are beyond pissed off because we love you. We wish we didn't have an emotional attachment the way that we do with you guys in times like this because of how much it tears us apart. You think you guys are getting beat up every single day with the way that you're playing or lack thereof? It's the same way us Mets fans get beat up when we devote our entire lives around you. And yes, it's not healthy and we shouldn't be doing that, but we choose to do that because we were born Mets fans. This is just how it is. There's really no deviating away from it. If you ever hear someone say they're a bandwagon Mets fan, you really have to sit there and wonder how in the hell is that possible with the little success that they've had as an organization. So trust me when I say, we love you. We just want you to be better because you are playing such piss poor baseball that you are losing fans and you are losing eyes by the second the way that you guys have been underwhelming. Now, everybody, I'm going to bring in live callers. So, to call in, folks, all you have to do is the following. Please make sure that you have the same name on YouTube that you have here on I'm going to bring you guys in through StreamYard. That's going to be the application. So you're going to put in your name. Make sure you guys have your camera on too. I'm not going to show you on camera, but just have it on, please, so that way I know what you guys are doing because people love to be stupid sometimes. So please have your camera on, put your name in, and just don't be too long-winded is the main thing. I want to get to as many questions and callers as possible. So if you guys just want to vent, if you want to rant, if you just want to go on whatever spiel you want to go on, just try to keep it concise and relevant to the team right now. If you guys got any hard-hitting questions for me regarding changes that could be had, whatever it may be, please ask away. But again, just be respectful. Please don't say anything that you don't want your fellow peers to hear, because trust me, it'll come back to bite you in the ass. We've already had multiple instances where I've had and went out of my way to find out and contact certain individuals by finding out information. That's not easy to find, but we have done it. And since then, they are no longer active, at all participating in the channel, one, nor will they be able to do that probably again, because more often than not, their parents aren't too happy about the things that they say. All right, folks, let's bring you in. Let me give you guys the link right now, and then we will go from there. Here's the call-in link. And I don't know where we're at in the like count, everybody, but please help us get to 100 likes. Greatly appreciate it. If we can get to 150, 200 by the end of the live show, really does mean a lot because, again, the Mets might be free-falling. They might not be showing up, but your boy Wardy always is no matter what. So appreciate you guys all so much in advance for the endless support there. Let's see. Also, apologies, Bobby G. I just accidentally deleted whatever comment that you had here on YouTube in the chat. That was an accident on my end. I was just trying to get everything pinned up for the call-in link. Sorry, everybody. Again, guys, just make sure when you call in, please have your camera on. Please have the same name that you have here on YouTube so I know who you guys are. And let's do a call-in segment. Let's have ourselves hopefully a somewhat enjoyable time when everything else has been going terrible. Doom and gloom here in Metsland. I'm seeing the callers lined up, folks, so we're going to get to you all shortly. And again, thank you all so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. This is the time to hear from you, Mets fans, more than anything. I'm going to test to make sure that everything's set, everybody. Again, you can call in with the link that I have available for you in the live chat right now. We're going to be taking as many callers as we can over the next 20 to 30 minutes before wrapping up the show. So, all right, folks, let's get into it. Let's see. Let's start with LTC Cherno. Do you hear me, my man?
Yes, I do. Do you hear me?
I hear you. Everybody in the chat, can you guys give me a quick thumbs up if you hear my man LTC? Just want to make sure the audio comes in good so you guys are all set and LTC can either rant, vent, or say whatever he's got to say about this Mets team. Give you a lot of credit, Worry. Keep rolling. Thank you, Grant. Love you, brother. Hope you're doing great, my man. We'll talk again soon, as always. But hear him? All right. All right, LTC. It is your time. What do you got for me? Let it rip.
Okay. There's not a lot I can say about what's going wrong that you haven't really covered. But what's getting me and is like just stabbing me through the heart is just knowing that after this big deflating loss where they give up a comical amount of runs in one random inning, is that they're all going to walk back into the clubhouse, hit the showers. They're going to talk to the reporters and be like, oh, shucks, man, we're just trying our best. You know, we did well 2 years ago. Right. And then that's going to be it. And they're going to come back the next day and I'll be smiling for the next YouTube short fashion show. Yeah, we just got swept by Cleveland for the first time ever. But hey, look at how nice Harrison Bader's tote bag collection is.
Oh, I think you've nailed. So what do you mean? You don't care about things not regarding winning when it comes to the Mets?
I mean, I care enough to where getting one win every week feels like I'm on cloud 9.
Yes, isn't that sad? Isn't that just brutal? The fact that
I will support this team until I'm dead. I mean, this team has had some rough patches, but it's just there's something in everyone will say, "Oh, this is the worst team ever." Sell the team. It's not. There's far worse teams in the history of this club. But it's just something just particularly just deflating this past couple of years. It feels like I've been watching the same game every day since April 2022. It's just nothing seems to be changing. And I get it. You know, we were told basically not to have high expectations this year. Oh, you know, it's a rebuild. And Stearns comes in with a few last minute signings. Hey, we might compete, though. Might compete, you know, so you get that little carrot dangling over you and you go on a nice little streak saying, man, maybe we're back. Nope. I hope you like watching a lot of 6-run innings. Not on our end, though.
No, it's been brutal, my friend. So I guess my one question for you before I let you go here is there anything in particular that you would like to see happen with the Mets, you know, by the deadline, change-wise, whether it's them buying or selling, just selling? Like, is there anything that you personally know that you would get enjoyment out of with this Mets team, change-wise, if it's not going to be them putting wins in the column?
I'd just like to just see something different in the sense of, like, just, like, I like that they're shaking up the lineup. Like, I've been rallying behind Mark Vientos for years at this point, and seeing him batting cleanup almost brought a tear to my eye because, again, it's something different. But just give me something I don't know how to put it in the words other than just give me something different. Like, I'd be down to watch something crazy. Like, put Ji-Man Choi in. Let him just do something.
Ji-Man Choi could be batting like 100 in AAA. Like, F it. Just throw him in there.
Put him at first. Put Fujinami in as a starter. I don't care. Just give me something.
Yeah. No, I think that's very fair, and I think we all need to see change. Fujinami is still out with injury. Wouldn't expect him anytime back soon, but I think in essence, I do agree with you in the sense of just wanting some level of change. So, again, thank you so much for calling in, Cherno. First-time caller. I'm sure it won't be the last time. You have a great rest of your evening, okay?
You too, man. Take care.
Thanks you. Shout out to LTC. Appreciate that. We got plenty of other callers lined up, folks. The next caller we're going to go to is, I believe it's a Jacob Pickney that I know very well. If that's the same Jacob I'm thinking. Jacob is an awesome editor on the side for me that we see on social. So let's see if this is in fact him. Jacob, do you hear me?
Yo, what's up, man?
How are you?
Good, how are you, Tyler?
I could be better. I could be a lot better. But we're here. What do you got for me, my man? Any specific questions? Any little vent session? Any rants? Just let it rip, my man. We want to hear it.
I mean, dude, like, I just can't wait for the trade deadline. I mean, this team is, like, so unwatchable, and with, like, all the, like, they're struck with the worst news when they're already in a shitty situation with this losing streak. And I mean, like, Edwin going down, and I hope not Pete, because, again, like, I'm so excited for the trade deadline. That is easily my favorite time of year. So when I get to see the prospects that we bring in for all these free agents, I mean, I'm going to have the time of my life that day.
Right.
But, like, I'm just, like, I'm waiting for these prospects, too. I mean, Acuna's probably going to come up soon, which I just, like, I'm dying to see him in the majors. Like, I'm not, like, huge on Acuna, but, like, I'd rather see him than McNeil right now, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we all would, right? And that was something that both Giraffe Nick, Mark, and I touched on yesterday, because a lot of viewers were asking, what if you called up Acuna, who's been red hot his past 10 games? He's been looking fantastic. Around a 900 OPS, batting over 300 a bomb, 4 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. Acuna's been heating up at the plate in AAA level. But if you bring him up, then you put McNeil in a utility role. And I think that makes almost too much sense until you find out what the future McNeil is going to be. So outside of maybe warranting and wanting an Acuna call-up, is there anything else that you would like to see change with this Mets team that is realistic? I know that might be a hard thing to try to figure out, but let me hear it.
I don't know what would be realistic. I'm just like, I can't wait for Alvarez to come back. Like, once he's back, like, even if this team is still as shitty, I mean, we at least have something to look forward to. And, you know, as I said, like, I'm a huge, like, trade line fanatic. Like, that's easily my favorite time of year. So when July comes, like, I'm just going to have the time of my life. And, you know, like, there's some bright spots on this team, but not enough to overshadow the fact that they cannot play competent baseball, which is literally the hardest thing to watch right now.
It's just so brutal, Jacob. And the fact that you have been going out of your way and helping me out on the graphics front, when I know you probably don't want to more often than that, you're like, oh my God, there's no way this team just lost. All right, send it to Wardy. I appreciate all the help on the socials and stuff. Guys, make sure to check out my man Jacob. He doesn't only do graphics for me, but again, he's an awesome independent graphic designer at Jacob Pickney, Piccini, on Twitter. Make sure to give him a follow. Jacob does great work. Thank you for calling in, my man, and try to enjoy the rest of your evening, okay?
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Shout out Jacob. All right, we got some more callers that we're going to get into, folks. Now, our next caller is going to be Matthew. Matthew, you are stepping right up, my man. How are you doing today, brother?
Oh, what's up?
Okay. All right, you look like you got a lot to say. So let's let it rip, baby. Let me hear it.
All right, they need to tank the team.
Tank. Okay, define tank.
Probably 100 losses for the next 3 seasons.
3 seasons? You want them to do a complete rebuild for a 3
seasons? That's what they need. There's a rotten and a core to this team.
Okay, so break it down for me. You've clearly thought about this a little bit. You're like 3-season rebuild at minimum. Let it rip. Tell me what you think makes sense for the Mets throughout that time and why they should warrant trying to basically do a free fall for another multiple years. Tell me.
They need the picks. They don't have anyone in the draft system. They have no pitchers in their farm league. They've got nothing. They've got nothing.
Okay. Well, they do have pitchers in the farm. I will disagree there. It's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Christian Scott is a stud. We're very happy to see him at the major league level.
And I've barely been watching just because of the NHL. So
okay, that's fair. Are you a Rangers fan? There you go. So we were all heartbroken yesterday too. See, he pans, he shows me the Messier and the Piazza jersey. So he's one of us. If you're not a Rangers fan, just disregard. It's fine. It's not like you got anything else to do but being Cancun Islanders fans or Devils fans, whoever. But regardless, appreciate you calling in, Matthew. And see, he's pointing. He's showing me Tom Seaver signed photo on his wall. You know, he's got it all. I love that. I have a Seaver signed ball, funny enough, right to my left right here. Let me see if I can show you guys at the moment. That's legit. No fluff there. Love that. Love to see that. All right, Matthew. So outside of just wanting to completely blow it up, because
do a Baltimore Orioles, Houston Astros style rebuild. Tear it down to the core, flesh and bone.
Okay, so you want them to tear it down to the core. Now, I guess my next question is, do you have faith and do you want to make sure that David Stearns is the builder throughout that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you have the faith in David Stearns. You just don't have faith in what is currently going on with the team right now.
No.
Okay, that's fair. I don't think they're going to go the lengths of doing a rebuild nearly.
A rot to this team.
There is a rot to this team, but I don't think they're going to do a tear down to that magnitude. But I do think they are absolutely going to make significant changes. I think by the offseason, we're going to have another offseason with so much turmoil, the way that we saw in pretty much every offseason since Steve Cohen has become an owner. But because we're in a big market and because of the expectations and because of some of the guys that they still have on this roster, I don't see a world where they go 3+ years of just saying, we're going to flunk. It isn't going to happen, but I do think...
Trigger fingers out.
I do think that we are going to see some type of middle there, if that makes sense, with the way this team is currently going. So, Matthew, before I let you go, how do you feel about Pete Alonso? Do you want him out of here, or is he a guy that you hope that the Mets do, in fact, keep?
Well, apparently, did he get injured?
What's that?
Apparently, he just got injured, right?
Alonso did just get injured with a hit by pitch, yes, but he'll be okay. I don't think it's anything too serious there.
Well, I hope he gets hot and then they trade him.
Okay, there you go. We literally have fans that actively want Pete Alonso traded.
Trade that boy if you have to.
Okay, there you go. So, Matthew, I appreciate you calling in, brother, and you have a great rest of your evening, okay? Thank you. Appreciate it. Matthew's like, nah, this is simple. What are we talking about? Just cut loose, cut ties, blow it up. What else are we doing? All right, guys, we got a couple more callers to get into. Again, guys, if you would like to call in, I do have the call-in link available for you on the live chat. Just make sure that when you guys call in, that one, you, of course, have your name that's the same here on YouTube. 2, make sure that you guys have your cameras on for me. And 3, just make sure that whatever you guys are about to talk about, that is all related to the Metropolitans. Now, I'm going to bring in a caller, Mets 2128. This is a caller that has called in the past. I know before I even click on the link, and he probably might have a smirk on his face and saying that I know he's going to be very hot-headed and rant. So I'm about to bring you in, my friend. So let it rip. Let me hear it. Just make sure that being somewhat aware of the viewers that we got going here. I spew profanity all the time. Just don't want to deviate from that too much. All right. How you feeling, my friend? Not too great, I'm sure.
Let's just say I've been saying this for about a month now. For this team to survive, we need to cut the collective cancer of Barnes and Hefner. The former for his lack of regard for plate discipline, and the former for his lack of regard of plate discipline, and the latter for his complete apathy to when his pitcher starts to melt down. These are crimes, in my view, for the grounds of a public flogging.
Oh my goodness, he is pissed, and I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. How long have you been a Mets fan?
Almost 28 years, since the Dallas Green era, 1996.
Okay, where would you rank this Mets team in comparison to recent failed Mets teams?
It's on the levels of being as bad and on the cusp of being not, if not worse, than the 2003 Art Howe Mets.
Okay, so my next and leading to my final questions here is 2 things. 1, do you want the Mets to be full-blown sellers at the deadline? And 2, what type of approach would you like the Mets to have in the offseason? Like, what would make you satisfied as a fan?
Be only partial sellers at the deadline. At the offseason, we need to restructure, not the roster, but the damn coaching staff. I can't put up with a tunnel vision twit in Barnes, who has no regard for plate discipline, and Hefner, who has become so unbearably apathetic to his pitcher's plights that he leaves them in there to rot. I want a new pitching coach and just keep Chavez as the sole hitting coach in 25.
There you go. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty clear cut. I really don't think there's anything else to add. So Mets 2128, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope that a place like this can at least be a little bit nice of a vent, a place to let go of your frustration, if you will.
I'm going to say this before I go.
Okay, please do.
Hefner, you F this up and we don't get a split this weekend against Arizona, I am calling for a public flogging right in front of the Jackie Robinson statue.
Okay, there you go.
Of your asses.
There you go. He's fed up. He's done. Appreciate the call, and as always, let him cook, says Grant. I love that in the chat. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we got a couple more up here. We're going to go now to my man Emerson. I'm about to bring you in here in 1 second. Before I do, though, everybody, couple things. Jorge Lopez has a presser going on, and I think I might get flagged if I show you guys the entire interview, but I'm going to play the audio for you all. Jorge Lopez is letting it rip like right now in ways that is pretty blunt. So we're going to pan to Jorge Lopez's quick little interview, and then I'm going to go back to the live callers. So Emerson, Allen, Urza, I'm going to get to you. Great gentlemen, and then we're going to wrap up the show from there, okay? Appreciate you guys. Thank you for your patience. I'll be with you all soon, but let's hop into this one for a second, folks, because yeah, Jorge Lopez has some things to say, and let's see what exactly he has to say. Lopez is gone. Mind you, everybody, for those that are unaware as to who, and I mean who, started the Mets post-game meeting today, it was none other than the leader in that locker room in more ways than one, and at certain times, Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor, folks, was the driver behind the meeting, so bear that in mind. All right, folks, now we're going to hear from Jorge Lopez on his thoughts on tossing his glove today.
Carlos Mendoza said that he understands the emotion, but that particular action of throwing your glove into the stands was unacceptable. Looking back on it, do you regret doing that?
No, I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst teammate probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened, happened. So, whatever they want to do it. I'll be tomorrow here if they want me, whatever they want to do. So I'm going to keep doing this thing, so I'm healthy on whatever, on whatever to do. I'm ready to come back tomorrow. If they want me to be here, so I'll be here.
Carlos Mendoza said that he understands the emotion, but that particular action of throwing your glove into the stands was unacceptable. Looking back on it, do you regret doing that?
No, I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst teammate probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened, happened. So.
Wait. Is he saying he's the worst teammate or teammate?
I've been looking the worst teammate probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened, happened. So.
Oh my God, Jorge Lopez not holding anything back, and his. Wow, that was some that's exactly what you kind of would expect from a guy, truthfully, after that happened. After the throwout. Jorge's not batting an eye. He's like, nope, this is how it is. I don't regret a damn thing. Worst team. So yeah, Jorge Lopez, I'm not gonna lie, I've liked Lopez playing this season. I kind of like him even more. Even after getting lit up today. Because you know what? While this might not be great from a clubhouse perspective, he's not the only one that feels this way right now. I promise you, there are many Mets in that clubhouse throughout that Lindor meeting that are probably thinking to themselves, holy shit, do we suck. We are absolutely putrid. We are terrible. He's getting DFA'd 100%. Oh, he may very well get DFA'd. Even if that's the case, so be it. Jorge Lopez, thank you for your service. One of us, if you want to cue, the meme there that you'll see from Leonardo DiCaprio and Wolf of Wall Street. Jorge Lopez speaks about this too. Here we go.
It's just emotions. The game will just take you to there. So I love this game since kid. So it's nothing to feel bad about it. I'm the way I am, and I know I've been working on stuff where it's mentally more than, we know the game is more hard than mental, but I'm not afraid to be me. So.
And what made it worse between the two of you?
It's just emotions. The game will just take you to there. So I love this game since kid. So it's nothing to feel bad about it. I'm the way I am, and I know I've been working on stuff where it's mentally more than, we know the game is more hard than mental, but I'm not I'm not afraid to be me. So
And what,
Okay.
And what
There you
heightened-
go.
what made
Jorge
it
Lopez saying it how it is,
worse
folks.
between the two of you?
Nothing really that I need to add on there. I just want to get to our callers now. And wow, okay. Again, Jorge Lopez, this might be it. This might be it, truthfully. But the same way that Tommy Pham went out. See, here was the thing. Last season, everybody, remember when Tommy Pham said how this was the worst work ethic group of position players I've ever been a part of? He's not lying out of his ass when he said that. And Tommy went on to go to a D-backs team and be a key focal point of their offense when it mattered most in playoffs, going all the way to the World Series. So when we hear quotes like this, and when we hear Lopez be blunt, again, he's just saying what we all know and what we've all been going through as fellow fans. So Lopez, again, whatever your future is going to be in the organization or not, I appreciate the bluntness. And yes, we have hit rock bottom a little bit. And yes, that is going to be clipped so much. And unfortunately, I think that one bad takeaway, even though the Mets are absolutely a laughingstock right now, is that is going to be used against us Mets fans in times. And that's the annoying part. But it is what it is. Now let's get on to Emerson. Emerson is our next caller. Emerson, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, Wardy. It's. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. We all hear you, brother.
Yeah, it's really awesome to finally be talking to you. Oh man.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're talking to me under these conditions and under the state of the team right now. But you've been waiting diligently, patiently to have your voice heard here, my friend. So whatever your thoughts are on the Mets, your time is shining. Here we go.
Awesome. All right. So Wardy, I just want to go. I just want to talk about Lindor real quick.
Sure.
Ever since he came in the team, I was really, really excited when he came, and I thought it was awesome that that we got a superstar for the Cohen era and this and that. I was a little sad when they traded Jimenez because Jimenez looked like the next Edgardo Alfonso, Ray Ordonez, that good stuff. And I do think that especially last year and this year, I really do think there's way too much I in the team. There's not enough we. There's a lot of selfishness, like Fan was saying, there's too much, like people are lazy, they don't want to put in the work to try to get better, because I feel like, when I think it was a big mistake when Cohen gave Lindor that contract before he even stepped foot on the field. I think that was the biggest mistake. I love Lindor. I thought he was going to be really, really good for us to lead us to a championship, especially in 22. I spent $400 on this jersey and I got it signed. I love the guy, Wardy. I really do. But I genuinely think if you could find somebody to eat the contract, I think you should just do it, Love the guy. I love the guy, but I don't know. I feel like we're not going to go anywhere with him. I hate to say it.
So
but
I guess my question to you is because I can tell that you're a seasoned fan and you definitely keep up to date with the team. So you probably understand how tricky it is to part ways with someone of Lindor, given the contract, given all those factors. So I guess my thing for you is, do you think the Mets will get to a point where it is warranted to have that kind of discussion? Or do you think that they will tread water enough where Lindor, again, continues to thrive because he has been hitting much better in the leadoff spot since moving there? And we all know Lindor turns it on big time throughout the entire course of the summer. I guess my question is, how much better does the team become in a situation where they try to trade a Lindor who's on a contract that is far from desirable? So you're going to have to eat the good portion of those dollars for the next 8-9 years, one, and then two, how that factor into the type of trade value that you get in return. So what's your thoughts on all that?
I absolutely think they can do that. Because I like to think of like A-Rod, when he was with the Rangers and then they traded him. I think it was like the Yankees, right? They took that contract, but that's a different situation. I get that, but if you can find the correct suitor who's willing to take the contract, then I'd say do it. Because I genuinely feel that as soon as he goes, I feel like there's going to be more of a winning culture. Only because I just feel like there's something selfish about him. Because he really said a couple of weeks ago in Cleveland that he said he misses winning. Like he doesn't like what's been happening in New York the past couple of years. He feels unhappy, and taking the strike three all the way, giving up. That's unacceptable for a man who's making $31 million a year. No clutch hits, 2 or 3 of them, swinging first pitch, bases loaded. That's unacceptable,
Yeah, I definitely understand the frustration behind Lindor. Personally, I wouldn't really put much stock. I'm not putting nearly the stock that you are with that quote, for example, because I don't think he's wrong. Like the same way with Lopez. Yes, is it maybe a bad look from an organizational standpoint? Yeah, you can make that argument, but just from that quote alone, saying, I miss, winning and being part of a winning culture, there's nothing wrong in that for a guy that, one, got traded, and two, of course, signed a big deal because a new, fresh owner gave him a bag that he couldn't say no to. And then he's dealing with the repercussions of that. Like, if I was in Lindor's shoes, I would probably say the exact same thing. Because if there's something that the Cleveland Guardians have that the Mets have, that the Mets don't have, it's a winning culture and a philosophy. Even with a fraction of a payroll, and I said this a lot last week when we were doing our postgame coverage with Fuzzy, how Cleveland, their players know exactly what they're getting themselves into. Every single time that they go up there, they know what the philosophy is. They know what their role is. With the Mets, there is a complete lack of identity that's been going on years upon years, well before even Steve Cohen. So I think when we look at that quote, I wouldn't dissect it to the extent that you did. That's just my personal opinion. But secondly, I understand the frustration, and I will say that should they continue to free fall, and should Lindor be a net negative more than a net positive for this team, which I personally don't see happening. But again, I also didn't see the Mets being 11 games below 500 before we even got to June. So who the hell knows? So what I will tell you is the same way I feel about Alonso, where I just care about winning more than anything, and I just want guys here that are going to help us win. That stands for everybody, no matter how much I too love Lindor. So while I personally don't think he's going anywhere, and I do think that he will be a focal point of the Mets having success, should they have success with him here, I understand where you're coming from. So I don't think you're completely out of left field for kind of saying what you're saying. He literally, guys, you can't see it on camera, but he literally has a signed Lindor jersey like in his lap right now. Like, this guy is very much a Lindor, a lover. It's not that he dislikes him. He just doesn't think it's going to work here with how things have been going with him. And for that, I can understand, my man. So Emerson, any final remarks before I let you go?
That's about it, Wardy. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope to be on next time. Talk about whatever, whatever happens with the team.
Thank you. I appreciate that, my man. Have a great one. Appreciate Emerson. Again, regardless on where you guys stand on those comments, we can always have a respectful conversation. That was certainly a good one. I appreciate the insight. I love hearing the differences in how you guys feel about not only the team, but pretty much just everything going on with them at the moment. Those Lopez comments, too, are just absolutely insane. They really are. I mean, I think I've been on the worst team in probably the whole fucking MLB, says Jorge Lopez. What a quote. Literally, what a quote. Everyone's tagging Stephen A. Not Stephen A. Steve Cohen. Look at your players, says my man Anthony, tagged him. Look at this effing product. I mean, you're not wrong. You certainly are not wrong there, folks. We're going to continue to roll with our callers. We got a couple more to get into. We got Alan, we got Urza, and then we got my man Chris. We will get to you guys, and then we're going to wrap things. Again, I appreciate everyone that's been taking the time to call in here in the live chat. Greatly appreciate everybody. And now we got Alan. I know Alan is not happy about his Mets, and the last time that Alan called in, he wasn't happy about his Mets. Alan, has anything changed since the last time you and I spoke?
Frustrating. Again, they got 11 under. So frustrating. I want this team to have a drastic change like the 1973 run, but with a wild card. And it feels useless.
Yeah, it really does. It's brutal. This Mets team, again, looks like a team where you just don't think that things are going to ever be more than dark and gloomy and cloudy at Citi Field the way it's been. So, Alan, I guess my question to you is, my friend, what would you like to see outside of just them starting to win?
This needs to win more. And I think the June swoon was a key cog to have a better chance to turn it around in June. If we don't, we're screwed. We have to start from the ground all up again. Frustrating.
Would you say that June is the month that makes or breaks this team for the entire season?
Yes, because I've seen this happening before. Like certain teams, like the past 2 years, like past 2 to 3 years, the first 3 months was their weakness, and then everything went up, and it went good for them. I just hope this happens, but looks like we're not going to do. I feel like I'm almost close to giving up, but I still have faith in this team.
What do you what about this team do you have the most faith in?
having David Stearns. David Stearns uses science, analytics, everything to build from scratch to build up. And I mean, he changed the Brewers in a year. And I'm seeing if he could turn everything up, he got rid of all those locker room cancers and coaches that didn't help. We need this. And I think we need to eat some contracts right now, like I said earlier in the last video.
Wow. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Alan, and it has been frustrating to say the least, my friend. And before I let you go, are there any final remarks you'd like to share?
One more thing. Do you think we could make a reverse June swoon? That would be funny.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got the June swoon in miserable May, so who knows? Maybe the reverse psychology is going to work in the Mets' favor here in June for a change, while they've already digged themselves a hole that may very well already be too deep to dig out of. But, Alan, I appreciate you calling in, my friend, and you try to enjoy the rest of your evening, okay?
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Appreciate Alan calling in. Again, great supporter. Again, always trying to be an optimist, but when you're having him already being fed up with the team the way he is, it's not looking too great. So we're going to get to our final caller tonight, folks. Before we get on close to wrapping things, Chris, do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yeah, what's up, Chris? What do you got for me?
Yeah, just wanted to reach out, send my love. I'm a big fan of what you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, my man.
We follow each other. I do, just some work over there. I see. So I just wanted to, send my love to all the fans too, because it's like, I hate that you guys have to go through that. Like, I mean, growing up, I've been a big fan of the team, everything. I love them, but more than anything is that, we go through all these ebbs and flows, and then I see a lot of people, killing Steve Cohen, right, and everything that he's done and everything that's been going on. And I really think that even though it's been 4 years, it's not an accurate time to kill him or anything else that's going on. It's kind of just let this run its natural course because it was needed. All these years, they've had, different regimes, people trying to play GM, people that weren't really fit for the job. Now they have this, it's too early to call really. And I think that it's just like a collaborative effort to just kill the Mets between the media and the fan base, overreacting because they were so close to actually getting somewhere 2 years ago, that it's almost like they lose they lose how magical things can get over the next 5 years if they can press the reset button and not re-sign Alonso and not keep all the things and keep whatever they have, whatever on the books, just keep them, because at least they're going to be able to, those aren't people that you need to get rid of. They're not clubhouse cancers really. And people, they want to kill McNeil. I mean, in reality, it's almost as if, it's working himself out. You want me to, say something? I don't want to overtalk, but
yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right there in what you're saying.
More positivity though.
Yeah.
More positivity, and I know it's a lot of losses, but I mean, if you've been following this team, I've been following this team since about '99.
Right.
And I mean, there's been times when we thought that it was going to be multiple years where we're going to be contending, and then all of a sudden we just go down. I mean, 2009 to 2015. I mean, all those years. I mean, this is a lot more of optimistic turn in the franchise than it was back then. If you think about it. And I just watched the Bernie Madoff documentary the other night.
Oh, there
you
go.
I mean, when I think of it like that, I'm like, things can't really be that bad. It's like, you're looking at it in a different light. I mean, of course, we wanted 100 wins. We want to win the division. You want to even make the wild card, this year. But I'm saying just in general of last year and this year, the disappointment. I feel like it was necessary to not, ride this core. They need to build a new core, and they need to have a new identity in the franchise from bottom to top. And
So-
it was needed.
So what you're pretty
All
much
this.
saying is that, you're not happy that this is played out, but you're kind of seeing the true colors with what this current roster configuration
Absolutely.
is. And that's where you're getting at. You don't want the Mets necessarily to buy in on,
Live in denial.
say a core group that, gave you, what was not a true sustainable amount of success. Because that's why, again, I referenced 2022, the first half, so much, because we were all, filled with euphoria and just so much positive emotion with the way the Mets were churning out consistent series wins, dramatic comebacks, and, just fashions that we just simply couldn't fathom as young Mets fans. But seeing the way and the philosophy in which they were winning those games was great, but it was riding the hot hand a lot. It was heavily relying on the small ball, that we know, with guys getting on base, putting the ball in play. How many infield singles did the Mets have in the 2021 season? Far more than any other team in baseball. Again, those things aren't sustainable. The same way that, again, banking on Pete Alonso and Lindor as your only sources of power, Mr. I'm going to go and get Darren Ruff and Daniel Vogelback to be our DH options, is ridiculous. Again, the Mets have unfortunately made their bed in a lot of ways to this point, but I do agree with you in saying that, yes, by seeing what's happening now, this just further validates the Mets to make change and potentially change like we really haven't seen before, even if that does include the potential demise of a homegrown talent like Pete Alonso. Like, where do you stand with Pete in particular? Like, are you one of those guys that doesn't mind the idea of him being here long term, especially if it's a contract that makes sense? Or are you under the mindset that, as great and talented as Alonso is as his best, you just don't think he's really going to put the Mets where they need to be, with the money that he'll be getting paid?
Think of it this way, right? And this is you following the team every day, and this is me being on the field watching him a lot of times, right? And I truly think he's a good person deep down as a human, but I don't think that he's a good showpiece to show around the league as far as a name. But when you get down to the nitty gritty of everyday baseball, he's not a player that you build around. He's like an accessory to it. And if you want to give him that much money, when on top of the fact that you gave Lindor, if you didn't give Lindor this money, like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, you could give Alonso an extension even at that point in 21, 22.
Right.
But instead, they decided to go that route with Lindor instead of letting him play that season out. And that's where they lost their leverage with this core group. Because then you have to pay Nemo, because Nemo's like, you pay Lindor all that money and I'm the heart of the team. So it's like, it's kind of those things. And then it looks bad optics wise to give all that money to Lindor to like core fans, but not give it to a homegrown player like Nemo. And then it's the same thing that's going to play over. But then the fans are going to complain about Nemo. They're going to complain about the same guys that they're re-signing off of just trying to save face for the fan base. And I think there needs to be more of a connection between what the front office is doing, what the owner is doing, and the fans actually trusting them more for things to flow more, because every fan in the stadium has energy and they are actually connecting with the team. And I know it's not a day-to-day thing, but over time, that the negativity, the constant thinking that it's Frank the Tank mentality, all that begins to resonate with the team. And the players feel that no matter what, even if they're distanced and they're disconnected from society in some ways as far as players, they do feel it. So I feel like if there's people out there, that really are taking ear to this, really think about like the positivity of the next 5 years. If you have 5 years to be a fan and everything and really truly believe in this, you have to buy in like you're buying a stock. You can't think of it as doom and gloom every game that they lose. They're playing the best team in baseball, and they play competitive too. At the same time, you don't want the Mickey Callaway, live by your, laurels, those kind of things. But at the same time, you have to think about that part too.
So I guess where I would personally disagree is, like, let's start with the Dodgers, okay? Because the Dodgers rolled in
5-game losing streak.
rolled in this series playing like shit. They played far from their best baseball. Will Smith, again, was their biggest driver in this series. If the Mets could have just contained Will Smith, they may win at least one of these games, right? And that's where the poor approach from the Mets as a whole comes into play at times. It also comes into play when you realize they've continued to find ways to lose. Two things can be true. One, the Mets have been in a lot of close, tight ball games the past month. That is true. The same way that the Mets also leading a game past the 7th inning. Listen to this stat. There's a reason why the Mets are not going to go anywhere with this current rate. After leading through 7 innings, the Mets have a record this season of 13-9. 13-9. The Dodgers are well over 20-1. Now they're probably close to 30 now. And that same type of stat. That is the difference between, mediocre teams and good, if not great teams like the Dodgers we know will be throughout the course of the season. But the Mets here, and this is where the doom and gloom comes into play for even fans like myself, because we all went into this season trying to be as rational, as level-headed as possible. I knew right away the Mets would be winning, plenty of games, and would be losing plenty of games. There's a reality where the Mets even had a losing season. I went into the season thinking the Mets, again, could be anywhere from an 83 to 85 win team if everything goes right. That includes, again, getting performances from Severino, Manaea, which we have seen, getting performances from your bullpen, which we have seen in flashes, just not so much over the past stretch here. Offense just performing the way that they're supposed to on paper from what you see, but that's the foolishness in my Mets fandom, allowing the numbers to get in the way of reality that comes with this dark cloud around the Mets. And this is something that doesn't stem just this season. This isn't something that just stems last season. This is a continuation of an organization that has been beyond mediocre for the vast majority of its existence in various different ways. So while I agree, and I do hear you in the sense of, wanting to buy in stock, if you're a true Mets fan, be ready, you're going to go through a lot, but it's going to be worthwhile in the end. That might be true, but what can also be true is kind of the initial wording and what we heard with Steve Cohen when he first bought the team, and seeing how much has changed throughout that period of time. For the fans that are really stubborn on the 3 to 5 year window, I understand that. I don't agree, basically, in the sense where, Steve has quickly learned the hard way that you can't buy a championship. Let's also not forget David Stearns was a guy he wanted right away and couldn't get the interview, couldn't hire him for the first 3+ years or so, entering now year 4 with Steve Cohen, if I'm not mistaken. It's a tricky thing to evaluate. So I hear you. I hear you, especially as someone who, again, is at Citi Field constantly. You know what these players are going through. But I think also something can be said for the fans out here that we're just expecting some entertaining baseball, like myself. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking for consistent series wins, because I know that that's very hard to come by with this team. I'm just asking for them to play entertaining baseball. And unfortunately, for the past month straight, and for the majority of the season, including even some of those 12-3 run games, because some of those games weren't even pretty. They didn't hit until late, which is why they had that comeback. That's why they had inflated stats in the 7th, 8th, 9th inning, because they didn't hit a lick against any competent starter through the first 6 innings. So I think for us, it's not so much about, okay, this Mets team, like buying in for them for the years going forward. It's more so for this season alone, we at least expected them to be looming close or around, a couple of games out of 500 by this point in the season. But to be 11 games, to not even get double-digit wins in the month of May, to have one series win over the past month since Alvarez went down with injury, to be 11-25 without your young catcher is inexcusable. And that is, I think, where, again, a lot of fans, including myself, kind of find ourselves still a little bit in disbelief on how they have managed to continue to find ways to lose that have quite literally almost been impressive.
No, and that's the thing. They picked up a lot of people, people off the street, as far as players, but they mesh only so well. I mean, it gets unglued. The one thing I was gonna say before I forget is Starlin Marte, actually up till August, right, until he got hurt in 22, that kind of bat and that kind of speed in the lineup, like they honestly, with Lindor, if they do keep Alonso, just by, if they end up doing that, I'm not going to just completely count that out, right? Because it's not about what I see, it's about what Stern sees, right? So if they were to get a bat along with Nimmo, because this is their core, they're paying for Lindor and Nimmo, they're not going to get rid of them. Everybody wants to trade the whole thing, but they're not going to do that, right? So they have those pieces. That lineup can coexist. If you have a more strong bottom half of that lineup, it can be something. It's not like Lindor is complete trash. I think that it's more a mental thing, and once he breaks that, this is not the end of Lindor. He's a talented player. He's a professional. There's a lot more in there than people really give credit. And I mean, there's times when people will fluff up the numbers, but in reality, he's still going out there every day and he's working. And right now, this is what you have. This is what you paid for. You got to kind of roll with it. And as base, like, it's not really something we can be so dark about when you guys are stuck with him. I mean, we're as far as watching it, everything,
right.
It's like we have to kind of go with it. It's not Rosario where they just trade him or Jimenez. We could live on forever thinking about that. But at the same time, there's 100 trades in baseball that people don't want to make.
Yep. And Lindor is not a guy that, again, regardless of how much success or lack thereof he has for the remainder of the season and the years going forward. He's just not a guy the Mets are at all going to consider attempting even to trade at any point in the near future. Some things, there has to be some drastic turmoil in order for that to happen. And again, Lindor was the driver behind the meeting today, so just an example on the type of leader that he is with this team. But again, if we're going to focus on leadership, then I think it's fair to say that we need to look at a guy like Lindor, who's being the driver behind something like this, to kind of help not give us all the answers, but holy shit, again, someone's got to step up. So hopefully the Lindor pep talk helps a little bit. All I know is this Mets team, for us Mets fans' sake, to enjoy any aspect of this season, we just want to see them right this ship and just play entertaining baseball. Doesn't mean you got to make playoffs, even though we would love it. Just play entertaining baseball. Give us a reason to go out of our way to go to the ballpark. Give us a reason to want to chime in every night outside of what I do, because I literally do it for a living. You know, to the fans that don't, they can just tune it out right away, and that's okay. So, Chris, I really want to thank you for taking the time to call in a little bit longer than the other callers, but for good reason. Chris, again, for those that don't know, helps out. He works at Citi Field, has been doing that for a bit. Him and I, we've connected before on socials in the past, and, very big supporter of mine. So appreciate the call in, my friend, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, okay?
You as well. Great talking to you.
Thank you, Chris. Have a great one. Shout out to Chris, and thank you all to everybody that called in to the show today, folks. Before we wrap things up, I'm going to share with you all a couple more quotes that we got here from Jorge Lopez today. Steve Gelbs went out of the way to ask Lopez to clarify some of his comments. And Steve Gelb said the following: I asked Jorge Lopez if he regretted throwing his glove into the stands. Not only did he say no, he then called the Mets the worst team in the whole fucking MLB. I later gave him a chance to clarify, and he confirmed that's what he meant. Listen up.
Goza said that he understands the emotion, but that particular action of throwing your glove into the stands was unacceptable. Looking back on it, do you regret doing that?
No. No, I don't regret it. I think I've been looking the worst team in probably in the whole MLB. So, whatever happened. So, whatever they want to do it, I'll be tomorrow here if they want me. Whatever they want to do. So, I'm gonna keep doing this thing. So I'm healthy and whatever.
Oh, that was the initial thing. Then he was asked again to clarify. Let's see here.
I didn't fully understand. Did you say I'm on the worst team? Is that what you had said?
Yeah, probably. It looked like.
And that they were embarrassed by you? Is that what you?
Yeah, they do.
Just to clarify what you said, just because I didn't fully understand.
Let's see. Singh, thank you for the $5 holler. Yes, we're talking about that Lopez presser as we speak right now. And then let's get to some other comments, because Adam Ottavino basically said he knows he shouldn't have done that in regards to the ejection and everything. Mind you, this is the same Jorge Lopez that said he regrets nothing. So already some contradiction in the clubhouse of Ottavino trying to be a good guy and support his teammate here.
Jorge, and he said that he feels like he's on the worst team and that the team was embarrassed by him and he doesn't regret any of his actions. What are your thoughts on what took place with him today?
I mean, Jorge's a good guy inside. I mean, deep down he knows he shouldn't have done that, obviously. I mean, we'll talk, we talk, but everybody's going through stuff. Listen, he's going to answer the way he wants to answer them. Would I do it? No, but he's part of the team. We're going to support him and figure it out either way.
Hold on, folks.
And then you've been here for parts of 3 years now, and you've seen obviously the really good in 22, and then the opposite last year and the early part of this season. What has been different with not the exact same team, but a core group of guys that has been here for all three?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to put your finger on specific differences. Obviously, a lot of things went our way in 22, and that hasn't gone our way since. I think what I just said about the process, maybe being wrong at times, you got to be honest about that. Individually and as a group, I think we're just not getting it done. We're not throwing up zeros when we need them, and we're not getting the hits when we need them. We're not putting the at-bats together. We're not playing the defense. It's really all over the board. I mean, we stink right now. That doesn't mean we're going to stink going forward, but that's just the reality of the situation. And 22 is in the past. It's in the distant past, and it was a fun year, but it doesn't matter anymore. 24 is what matters. There's still 4 more months of this season, and you got to keep that in perspective as a player. Otherwise, I just don't know what to tell you.
Here's Francisco Lindor, folks. in regards to Jorge Lopez's actions.
Francisco, Carlos said that what Lopez did throwing his glove in the stands was unacceptable. He just offered very little remorse, said he didn't regret it. How do you, as a team leader, view that?
Wait. Breaking news,
it
folks.
Definitely doesn't look good.
Breaking news, folks. As a surprise to absolutely nobody, Joel Sherman says Jorge Lopez is going to be DFA'd. Wow. Who could have saw this coming? All right, folks. Yep. Jorge Lopez's time as a New York Metropolitan has already come to an end just mere minutes after he said that the team sucks, that they're the worst in baseball right now. He's no longer on the team. So that's what happens when you not only be blunt, but you also speak in a way that goes against the clubhouse and goes against the organization. Because that's the thing, folks. Two things can be true. Did Jorge Lopez say something that we know would definitely have damage to him and his rep in the organization? 1,000%. Does that mean what he said was technically wrong? I mean, outside of the fact that there's a couple teams technically worse than the Mets, no, he's really not wrong. But he let his emotion get the best of him, and in a situation like this, he is now no longer a New York Mets. So expect Jorge Lopez to be picked up by the Atlanta Braves within the next 48 hours or so. And he will most certainly shut down the Mets next time they face us and have a 97 heater up and in on Pete Alonso or whoever. And that's what's going to happen. So, Jorge Lopez, thank you for your service, my friend. Not thanking you for today. I also will say that I don't hate Jorge Lopez. That's the big thing. He really has been serviceable plenty times for the Mets this season, and he's 1,000% just getting cut because of his comments today and because of his actions that we saw on the field. This is a Jorge Lopez that I don't know has more internal things going on outside of his frustration with the Mets, but what I do know is that his time in Queens has officially come to an end. Jorge Lopez is no longer a New York Metropolitan. And before we found out the DFA news by Jorge Lopez, now let's discuss, again, Francisco Lindor's comments on this. And again, we already know what happened now.
That what Lopez did throwing his glove in the stands was unacceptable. He just offered very little remorse, said he didn't regret it. How do you, as a team leader, view that situation?
I mean, it definitely doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. And if our manager says it's unacceptable, it's unacceptable. With that being said, it's one of those where I'm sure tomorrow, I hope tomorrow he feels completely different. He's still in the heat of the moment. He's somebody that carries things a little longer than other players. So hopefully tomorrow he feels a little bit different. If he doesn't, at the end of the day, he's our teammate, and we got to go out there and compete day in and day out, and I'll back him up.
Francisco, Carlos
there you go. Well,
what Lopez did.
Nothing to back up. Lindor, he's gone. He's out of here. All right, folks, give me 1 second. I'm going to tweet something real quick. I'll answer another comment or two, and then we're going to get out of here. Long-awaited show today, rightfully so, with all the turmoil and all the shit show going on in Metsland. If you guys haven't already, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It really does mean a lot. Really greatly appreciate that. Help us get 200 likes by the end of the live show. Give me 1 second, folks. Alrighty, folks. Jorge Lopez again is out of here. He's no longer in the Mets bullpen. Let's actually just take a quick look on how Jorge Lopez's tenure with the Mets came to an end. Now, we're not going to just talk about the presser because we already did all that. Let's talk about Lopez's final line on the stats to throw up here. See if they're live update. They may not be to the way that I want them to after today's outing. I'm just checking through Fangraphs right now. But let's see. Lopez signs it with AEW. That's hilarious. Who cares? Lopez sucks. He said he's the worst teammate. He didn't say teammate. He was asked, and he did clarify he was speaking about the team. Steve Gelbs, we saw that additional interview afterwards. Jorge Lopez's stats with the Mets. Again, I'm not sure if this was prior to today's game or whatever, but regardless, in 26 innings, a 3.12 ERA, a 4.05 FIP. In 26 innings, a 3.58 K per nine, a 6.58 K per nine, at 3.46 walks per nine. A rather serviceable reliever for the Mets for good portions of the season. Who's going to take his spot? We'll find that out. Again, bullpens can be ever-changing, so I'm not overly concerned there. But yeah, Jorge Lopez's time in Queens is done, folks, the same way that we're about to wrap things up here on the live show. So I want to thank you all so much for watching, listening. Thank you all so much that took the time to chime in. Folks, this was a hectic one. This one was truly something. First, it was the Mets now being 11 games below 500 and having, a bit of a vent session. Then it was the players going out of their way. Players, I should just say player, and Jorge Lopez really made sure to make everything about himself in certain ways. Even if he's not technically wrong to a degree about some of the things he said, he could not hold back his emotions, and unfortunately his emotions not only got the best of him, but got the best of his tenure with the Mets, which truthfully, I don't think he really cares all that much, if I'm being frank. I think Lopez is happy to get out of here and excited at the prospect of being picked up by a team that's better than the Mets. And quite frankly, there are a plethora of teams in Major League Baseball that'll be more supportive, that'll be more entertaining, that'll be more enjoyable to be a part of than the Mets right now. That's the reality. So everybody, that's going to do it for me. We will be back live tomorrow. Big day of coverage. Again, lots of big days of coverage here, folks. Like I said, we'll be coming at you with special guests, if not live callers, every single post-game show that we do this week. So until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Thank you all so much for chiming in, for taking the time today. Mets lose another heartbreaker by a final score 10-3. They continue to free fall and plummet, and their playoff hopes have not only what deemed by many as are already dead this season, but have continued to plummet in ways where they have dug themselves in a hole they just might not be able to get themselves out of for obvious reasons. Thank you guys for watching as always. We'll talk again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.